welcome to today's episode of the Group Therapy Podcast. Today we have, geez, Pete, I'm sitting here looking at your Facebook here. You're a writer, director, musician, co-founder of tons of stuff that's horror.
Yeah.
You're in the band with Sarah from the other day,
Uh-huh.
and a ton of stuff. Mr. Corey Trahan, welcome to the show. Tell us.
Wow, thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks, Bob. Happy to be here and talk about all these things or none of these things or whatever you want to talk about. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Well, so first off, here you are you've directed it looks like a couple movies now.
Yeah. So I'm sure Scara, Damsel of the Doomed, your previous host, who's also a really good friend and collaborator of mine, told you about the two projects that I directed. The first one that I wrote and directed called The Black Quarry, which is about a black metal band that it's a horror comedy. They go out into the woods and they resurrect a creature and they go toe to toe with this creature. And it's just a lot of fun, kind of throwback to like practical effects and just comedy. Having been a touring musician, most of my life, like it's being on the road with the band is pretty funny. And so like it's people say write what you know, and I think especially early on in your writing career that probably is true. I do think that part of the fun of writing as you mature as a writer is doing the research and learning about things
Yeah.
that you don't know. But early on it definitely is easier to write what you know. And so that movie was called The Black Quarry, and it's streaming and stuff on Amazon, etc. And then you guys probably talked about a second feature film that I directed that Sarah Webb, a previous guest, wrote called Damsel of the Doomed. And she wrote that script and sort of brought it to me. We kind of talked through it, and it's about a horror host. I would say it's more of a horror drama. It's about a horror host, her character, who's her rise to sort of stardom, and sort of her coming to terms with what she really wants out of her character. And it's also a big practical effects film. It's definitely an overarching sort of trend with me, but and it's that film in particular, I'm sure it was mentioned, is kind of a love letter to Austin, Texas, where we're from. We're a production studio out of Austin, Texas. And it's a lot of our friends and their shops, their goth shops and bazaar and things like that, and festivals. We were able to go shoot there for free. So the production looks higher than what it really was because of that. And yeah, it's really just our love letter to Austin, and it's been doing really well. It's in film festivals now, and so hopefully it'll be distributed on apps for everyone by October. So
That's good timing for the horror comedy genre, horror dramedy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does have a comedic. It has a comedic component to it. It's not as heavy as the Black Quarry, which is definitely like Evil Dead, kind of over the top, dumb, fun, dumb stuff. It's a little bit more contained. I'd say the comedy is a little bit more contained in Damsel of the Doom. So
Well, what I think's funny, you talk about Black Quarry. I've been on a kick on watching these the old '80s heavy metal movies, horror movies. So
uh,
like Trick or Treat, Black Roses, stuff like that. And now I'm seeing all these new ones come out, and they're embracing black metal. So you have like Deathgasm, you have and I'm like, that's pretty cool that you're doing one too. That you did one. That's
yeah,
badass.
super inspiring. And it was just, I mean, our crew, our horror web production crew, is really just a bunch of artists who do different types of art. We were never film people. We never went to school for film. I mean, I've owned Halloween theme parks, for the last 18, 19 years. And so I know special effects and I know costuming and theatrical. It's a little bit different theatrically, but it's still similar. And but none of us were like traditional film people in that sense. And so we were just people that loved that genre and loved those types of films, like exactly like Deathgasm and stuff, and they said, "Oh, let's do this. Let's see what we can do and have some fun doing it." And what started off just being something that was a bunch of us getting together doing something fun turned out to be something real pretty quick because everyone everyone on the team are incredible. All the artists are incredible, and no one will settle, And so it becomes this thing, and then it's like, oh shit, we can really do this, So yeah.
Well, it's nice. It sounds like you have a really good like group of people that you just. I mean, you have the like the regulars, the ones you work with.
Uh-huh.
And,
Yeah, Sarah, Sarah and I, we have this horror web company, and there's three or four other members in it. Our director of photography, Donnie Cavanaugh, who is the DP for both of those films, is a part of it. My assistant director, also art and production person, Kayla Stojak, who also she owns her own company called Zombie Peep Show. She does horror fashion. It's huge. She does work for like Lady Gaga and stuff. And she's out of Austin, Texas. Her husband is one of my camera ops on both of those films. And then we have the other owner of a part of the company is my audio guy, John Bach, who's also the bass player in the Immortals. So you can see this kind of incest. I don't say you know what I mean. It's just like
yeah.
we all kind of do different things together, and we just work together in a lot of different aspects.
So what came first? The band, or music, or movies for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, for me, I've been a musician all my whole life. So I've been in a production, like an engineer, production, and a musician my whole life. So for me personally, music came well before film. But for our crew, that's actually a good question. What really came first, I think, is my theme park here in Austin. And so that's sort of how our crew kind of got together because I was trying to build this really artistic horror sort of crew that could help me build this whole theme park here, 15 Acres of Fear. And so that's really where it started. And from there, I think we started doing interviewing, like Scara would we would get together as a team. We bought a bunch of equipment and we would interview people in the city of Austin that were doing cool things, like cool shit, like horror or goth, or they had stores, and that's sort of what I was alluding to earlier with the film, is that we made friends with those people by going out and shooting really cool interviews and hosting it up on our YouTube. So that's kind of film. It's not real film. It's more like video. We started doing that, and then in 2020 the pandemic hit. And so that sort of put a stop to that. And I was in an art rock band at the time, and that was kind of chilling. Our guitar player had a baby and stuff, and so so it was kind of dying out. And so I told Sarah, I'm like, man, I really want to do a horror rock punk band. Just have some fun, straightforward pop punk, dumb fucking story, lyrics like telling a story about creatures and stuff. And I'm like, do you want to sing? And she's like, hell yeah, I want to do that. And yeah, and so she jumped in and started working with us. Like I put together a bunch of rough songs from the very beginning for the band, The Immortals, with a Z, and the rest is history. The band has done really well in Austin. So I think the band and film kind of happened about the same time, but the park is what really brought the team together. And then we were like, holy shit, everybody's so creative. Let's do other stuff. Let's not just produce haunted houses. What else can we do together?
Well, it's nice that you can take one project and not just move it over to another project. You're taking one project, turning it into essentially three projects, and and taking the same team, and being able to do that. That's amazing to be able to manifest that. So
Yeah, I think that once you realize that if you're a creative person and if you have a creative mind, the medium is just the medium. Like a creative person is just going to be creative no matter what you do. You know, you can
Yeah.
give them anything and they're going to be creative with it. And we were exploring together different campuses essentially. Like what about film? What about, I mean, music is something, like I said, that's always been a part of my life, but I think Sarah in particular, our singer and the you know, and the actress in the films and the writer, you know, that was an explorative thing for her, you know, like I've never been in a rock and roll band like that before. Sure, let's try it. And to no surprise, it really fits her well and she loves it, right?
Yeah. Sorry. Had a cough there and I hit the mute button and the damn mute button didn't work right.
Uh,
But you know, it is cool to be able to do something like that, to be able to especially since you said you've been a musician since kind of, way back. When did you get into music?
Oh, I think I was just a kid. Like we had an old guitar. You know, I grew up in the golden years of the '80s, and we had a guitar that was just being shared amongst my friends in the neighborhood, man. You know, and somebody would think that they want to play it, and it was an electric guitar. I think it was Ibanez or something, and like it didn't work when you plugged it in and you know, and so and somebody would fiddle with it, and then finally you're like, I want to take that guitar home, man. You haven't played it, and like, okay, cool. Somebody had spray painted it because they wanted it flat black, you know, and so that's kind of where it started. You know, I would say probably sixth or seventh grade, just hanging out with friends and finally taking it back to my house and starting to fool around with it, you know. Um, yeah, I mean, then I just kind of played in friends' bands through high school, and then when college hit, I joined like a real band of older people. They were in their, well, it felt like they were in their 50s, but probably looking back, you know, I was 18. They were probably like in their early 30s or late 20s or
Yeah.
something. But they were like an established, and I was born and raised in Southeast Texas, and so they were like an established band that was doing honky tonk music. Nothing that I listened to. I didn't listen to any of that shit, you know.
Oh
But
yeah.
I wanted to be in a real band, and they taught me how to work a PA, and they taught me how to play professionally. And so it was the best. I was there for about a year, and then I quit and formed my own rock and roll modern rock band, and you know, but it was a necessary. It was great. Like it was the best thing I could have done because those guys really taught me how to be a musician, like a professional musician. So, you know, I'm 48 now, so that was, you know, probably yeah, 20 years ago or something.
Yeah. It's
30 years ago. Sorry, damn.
well, what's crazy is that I've talked to several people who are like metal guys and punk guys, and they'll play in country bands basically just to get their licks in, get their tour in, make some money. And I had a friend of mine. He's sitting there. He's like, "Man, I'm in a band." We're like, "Cool, awesome." He goes, I'm touring," and then we're like pulling teeth to try to get him to tell. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm in a country band," and I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, well, I was like, "Are you having fun? Are you playing? Are you getting a time in?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like,
Yeah,
how does it matter?
yeah,
And I remember when he started playing covers, he was like, I'm in a cover band." I'm like, "Okay." I was like, "Are you having fun?"
yeah.
"Yeah." I'm like, how does it matter?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like especially when you're young. I mean, but even then, like I've never been in a position where I've had to like support myself as a musician. So I'm not, you know, like and I like to write. Like that's the part. I'm a writer. I like to
Yeah.
write films. I like to write you know, music, and so so I've never played in a cover band, but I have, you know, tons of musician friends that have to pay the bills, and that's what you do, man, you
Yeah.
know. Yes, in Austin, Texas especially, it's like people go out, they want to hear familiar music, you know.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I remember talking to a guy years ago in a little local bar. He was in a metal band, and his day job was he played, I think, bass for like a big name country band. I don't want to put the and he was a touring musician. He was the guy that took out on tour. That's where he made his money. That's what his day job was. Was he was just the bass player for And then when he came home, he was in a really thrashy metal band. And
Yeah.
he goes, I was like, how do you, he goes, that pays the bills. this is where I have fun and I'm creative. He
Yeah.
goes, that is something I have to do. This is something I want to do. So I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, hell yeah, run with
I
it.
think you have to, man. Or you'll start to lose it, you know. I mean, in, yeah, I'm just, I'm happy that I've never had to pay the bills with it, with music or even film. Like, my films, my next film I'll shoot next year called Demon Code is a bigger budget film, but I mean, I have the luxury of, not being, like I can put my feet, my labor on the back end. Like I don't need it, so even with film and stuff, it's really nice to be able to have that. That's definitely a luxury because there's nothing worse than just being a content feeder to destroy your passion
Yeah.
for something.
Oh yeah. I've said this once and I'll say it 1,000 times. I was like, I remember I own a comic book store and a video game store, and that's all I wanted to do growing up. That's,
Uh,
mostly what I wanted to do. And I've talked to friends who walked away from a thriving store and everything else. And I'm like, how do you do that, man? How do you? And now that I've done it myself and it's still something I love, I could definitely see walking away from it one day because I'm just like, I'm burnt. I'm done. I don't want to stop loving this. I'm out. So, but that hasn't happened yet. I mean, I'll have my days, which is, everybody. But yeah, I get it.
yeah, yeah. It's whenever, yeah, because a theme park is that way. Like I have two Halloween theme parks, and they are a ton of work. That's
Oh, yeah.
yeah, just concreting. I mean, it's manual labor work, and you can't outsource everything because it would just be outrageous. You can't
Oh,
do that. Yeah, and so yeah, that's one of the things that's gets dangerously close to is this even inspiring anymore or
yeah.
what on a lot because it is hard work and it's hot in Texas and
Mm.
it's like, and you're wondering why am I out here on a Saturday, and the only thing that really gets you through those, a lot like a band, I would assume, is your crew there, and you're all together, and it's like, oh, what else would I be fucking doing? Sitting around watching TV or something, like,
Oh, yeah.
might as well do something that's bigger than me, even if it's some work, so.
Yeah. Well, the cool part about it is I have a little bit. I guess I can relate with you on a little bit on this. I don't know. It's probably in my early 20s. We had a guy who was going to buy a big old farmhouse with some land, and he was going to turn it into a year-round haunt locally. And this is back in like 90, God, 94 probably. So this is way a long time ago. And so I started building props and stuff like that and everything because he was going to buy the building and we were going to work with him. We were going to have it like, you know, come like, September through November. It was open every day of the week, but like, we closed like in the winter. We'd reopen, we'd have it like on the weekend. So it was a year round thing. And I'm building this stuff and the guys just stopped communicating with us and we found out that he couldn't get the house and that all fell through. And then I was like, all right, so now I have all this crap sitting in my garage. And I'm like, okay, now what do I do? I literally think I threw most of it away because I had nothing to do with it. And I couldn't, where the hell am I going to put it? I didn't want to put it in storage and pay for store of somebody else's crap. And yeah,
Well, yeah. And you would actually probably appreciate this, but during the process of building my new park in Austin, Bat City Scaregrounds, we were working with the city because I had to commercialize 15 acres of property that was agricultural.
yeah,
And we were just constantly running out of money, dude, because the city of Austin does not care about small business. They were just like bending me over left and right. And I'm a big comic book guy. I grew up reading comics, and I had a set of Uncanny X-Men, and they were Silver Age style. Every one of them was CGC'd over 9 on it, over 9.0. I had just been collecting and so I had like issues like 97 through like 170 or something. And
yeah.
every one of them was graded and like I said, over 9.0, at least or over. I sold them all for 7 or 8 thousand just because at some point we got into a bind, and I was like, I gotta pay for
Oh,
this land development. But that's the kind of thing you end up sacrificing for something, and nobody really knows what you
Oh,
the amount of sacrifice that you put into something like that, But
oh, I'm not gonna lie. That hits really close to home and right in my heart recently.
oh, really?
Yeah, I recently sold my giant size X-Men #1 for
Mm.
a project that is probably going to fall through.
Mm.
And I stopped because I was sitting there. I had other stuff for sale, like my
Uh,
Hulk 181. I pulled all that, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, no. And now I'm like sitting there. I'm like, it hurts me to like even think that I sold a book that I've been trying to get forever,
yeah.
and now it's probably never. It might not. It may not happen the way we planned it, but there's still a chance it could still happen, but completely differently.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's
That's sad. Yeah.
yeah, and
Oh,
to open my current comic shop that I have now, I had sold Walking Dead 1 through 5 years ago to pay for a trip to C2E2 years ago, and so 6 through I don't know, 6 through I think 50, I sold those, and that's what I opened my business with.
oh, wow. All right.
So that was my first month's rent, my deposit, my utilities, some back stock, some chairs and tables. That was what I spent to sell my Walking Dead to start my business. So
I think it's a good reason, man. Because I had to ask myself, like, what am I keeping all this stuff around for? I kept it because when the concept is oh, I'm gonna when you're a kid and we were reading it, we would bitch at each other, don't fold, don't crease it, man, and it's because we all were like, when we get older, this stuff's gonna be worth something, and we'll sell it, and we'll do something cool. The problem is that if you love comics, you never feel like you're. It always feels like when I get older, you're like, you know, you're almost 50 years old, bro. When is this magical moment of when you get older, And so it was like, this is it. This is why I say I kept those comics for so long, is
yeah,
to do something cool, like start this park, or for you, start your comic book or maybe do something maybe it has some risk tied to it or
yeah.
something. That's the whole point of collecting it,
Uh,
you know.
yeah, mine now is that as you can see, there's just boxes everywhere in my basement. And this is like I don't know, a third of my collection. I
Mhm.
have more upstairs, more in storage and everything else. And to be honest, I joke around. I was like, so when I die, I told my wife and one of my best friends, because he does all my eBay stuff, I'm like, you guys are gonna be really busy.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be a full-time job.
And then my son is like, well, I thought this was all mine. I was like, if you want it, it's yours. If it's not, you got to deal with your mom.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Comics definitely appeal to us like a horde mentality, It's like, what
I
do I need? Like I had just tons of comics that were worth nothing,
oh,
like
believe me.
why am I holding on to them? I'm never gonna go back and reread them, But have you ever created a comic book?
Um, Technically, yes. Um, I have a couple books I've worked on. I was the writer for. I have some books that are done that have never seen publication. I have some of the original artwork literally hanging on the wall at the shop for my books. And it was one of the ones where I still have the scripts, I still have the notes and stuff. And should I ever get an artist to stay on a book any length of time to be able to get it published, I'm good. Mine is that years and years of working in factories now and nerve damage. It wasn't allowed.
I just sent you a share request.
Yeah,
I'll
allow.
show you something here in a minute. Yeah.
Okay, yep.
Go
There we go.
ahead. You had some nerve damage.
Yeah. So like these two fingers are always numb. And I used to play bass too, which is
Oh,
really
actually, what's funny is in what crossed my mind immediately is I wonder if this guy's a bass player. I don't know why, but it just right before you said that.
yeah.
Funny.
I used to play bass, and what's real fun was a couple years back I got to meet Frankie Bello from Anthrax,
Oh, cool.
and Frankie's one of the reasons I started playing bass. And literally, how I learned how to play was I watched the live version of Got the Time on VHS tape. I recorded it, and I would watch it back, and I'd watch his finger placement through the entire, and that's how I learned to play Got the Time. And and it's so funny because he's like, "You still play?" And I'm like, "Nah." He's like, "I can't." I was like, "I got no feeling. I mean, these are pretty much dead."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, you still got those two." And I was like, "Yeah, I still will mess around, and I
Yeah.
still got my bass. It's literally like across the room, but my youngest son plays it now."
Yeah.
Um, and he's like, "Man," I was like, "It was like you and Tom Araya from Slayer are the reasons I started playing bass."
Oh, that's awesome.
And he's like, "Man, that's so fucking awesome." And he's just sitting there, he's just asking me all these questions, and it's so weird because I'm expecting to ask him questions. He's asking me questions,
Mhm.
and it was really surreal to be able to talk to the guy who inspired me to play bass. Was the one who was asking me questions about playing bass. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. But you were saying there's something with your comic book, I guess. It was
Oh, so I've over the years I used to be a okay artist, and I would sketch out all my character designs and stuff like that. And just from working in stuff like that, I it hurts my hands to like draw now.
yeah.
And so now I have to have an artist. I can write, which is no big deal. The only problem is that I hand off all my handwritten notes to my wife to make her type them out, and then she's like, "Your handwriting sucks. I can't read half of this."
Gonna figure it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like,
This
"You
is
know,
this is fun. This is a comic here. I don't know if your viewers can see it. We won't
yeah,
link, but I put this together out a few years back. Horror. This was like our film production company, right? So if you'll look, you'll see Scara
yep,
sword there, and like Orlok, the Defiler, which was at the time I was playing this vampire a lot around Austin and stuff. And as now we have a new actor, Charles Nessel, who also played the creature in the Black Quarry. He's now Orlok, but this was all kind of this is a comic book. It's a 26-page comic book that I made, and I did all the rough sketching, and then an artist took over from there. But it's like a lot of it's really R-rated, almost X probably. It's like a gore. It's like gore or something. You know what I
yeah."
mean? Kind of like if gore came on a comic book, you can see like the
Oh,
tetra.
Gore did come out with a comic.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. So it's that, and where this cloud is the galactic stank, which is like the big stank that's like the overlord of the universe and stuff. Anyway, it's pretty funny, but it was the first time and the only time I've ever done a comic, and it was a ton of work. And it was like but yeah, now it's like this huge collector thing in Austin because only made certain amounts, and so they're out there. There's a digital copy, so it'd be fun to get your opinion on it. Maybe I'll send it over. You can let me
Yeah,
know.
I'll take a look at it. Yeah, heck
Yeah,
yeah. And oh yeah, it's one of the ones where eventually I would like to get back to writing comics and stuff. I'm writing a, a book right now, a books plural.
oh,
But my brain doesn't work like linear. So I write sections of it. So I write and then I have to piece everything together later on. Um, and I have notes and stuff and notebooks and all that funness and
got like a log line or something.
um it's gonna be a it's gonna be a big space epic. Um
Odyssey, Space Odyssey. All right.
yeah, it's I grew up with Star Wars and Star
Uh-huh.
Trek and all that fun stuff and I wrote one that's it's about just kind of I guess for the sake of a better term, like people put into this big galactic war that have never really seen aliens or anything, and then suddenly they're cast into this. Oh, suddenly you have faster than light travel. Suddenly you have this, and it's like going from where we're at now to Star Trek in like 5 years.
Uh,
And so suddenly these people are starting to get these just ships and but being us in the way we are on Earth, we start going out and just trying to take over planet after planet, and we
uh,
start being the aggressor. And then we find out that there was a bigger species out there that was way ahead of us. It's now gone, and it goes on from there. And
Yeah,
literally, like, the last day I'm working is called The Burning of Paradise. It's the last of the three books. So,
awesome.
but
Sounds epic, man.
yeah, it's
Sounds like if someone violated the Prime Directive or something.
oh yeah, it's a really, I guess, almost a really 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 dark version of Star Trek that makes the Mirror Universe look like maybe it's not so bad.
That's
Uh,
a good thing. I love sci-fi. Of course, I'm a scientist. That's my day job. But I love sci-fi. You know, like Star Trek. When I was young, I loved Star Wars more. But as I got older and I started, I was in college and I started to really love Star Trek. And then everything changed. And then ever since then, it's been like, if I had to choose, it probably would be Star Trek because of the scientific basis of it. But
well, we were talking about this at the shop a while back that I remember reading a lot. I was one of them like voracious readers through school, and any sci-fi, any horror, any fantasy, I would read like a book a day. And I started reading like Ben Bova and Pohl and stuff like that. All those like hard science fantasy, hard science sci-fi. And so I did like that, but then I'm like, I don't know. I think that limits you when you start getting like super, because you're like you kind of like, okay, well, technically you can do this with this theoretical things, and now I'm at that point where now I'm like, suddenly we just have this huge evolutionary jump in 5 years, and then I don't really explain it outside the fact that we get faster in light travel, and
oh, okay, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we can upgrade the human being and have cybernetics and like legit cybernetics and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Well, I'll say like, there's writing a book. I've never written a book. I've written a script, a feature script, and they're 100 pages, 100 to 150 pages or
yeah,
something. But there's a lot of dialogue, and the formatting of a script just doesn't is lends to more pages than whatever would an actual novel or something. And
oh
so
yeah,
I imagine like finishing a novel must feel like the same as finishing a film. It's such an epic amount of work, and you have to sort of wrap your head around like, oh, is the story done? Did I actually go back and start to really think about it comprehensively and just be like, did I do a good job of pulling this guy together? And anyway, so yeah, I think it's a big deal. So congratulations on.
yeah. I mean, it's a work in progress. I mean, if because I wrote 180 pages of a book before, and then I reread it and I hated it and I threw it away.
Oh God.
And it's so funny because I had an author look at me and he goes, "You did what?" I was like, "Yeah, I threw it away." And he's like, "You didn't keep it like to rewrite it?" I was like, "No, I hated it, so I threw it away." And he's like, "How do you do that?" I was like, "If I don't like it, I throw it away. I don't want to. I don't want to see it. I don't want to do nothing with it. I didn't like it. I'm done." I've done that with movie scripts I've worked on. I did one. I wrote a movie called Snow Angel. When I was in a, it was one of the times where you're like in a bad place and you're dealing with some shit. And I'd started rewatching like the old, like I Spit on Your Grave and stuff like that. And it was a rape revenge film.
Uh,
And I had wrote it, I had cast the movie, and I started moving forward. Shit happened, life happened, we put everything on hold. And by the time I came back to it, I wasn't that guy anymore. That's not what I wanted to do. So I just shit canned an entire script because that's not where I was at anymore. And somebody goes, well, you could have passed it on to somebody else. I was like, yeah, but that's my work. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, Stephen King did that to Carrie. I mean, I just learned that from our Scream Theater from
yeah,
Scare Up the week. Like, he threw that away. His wife rescued it. His
yep,
wife was like, "Don't throw it away," but he shit canned it. So, I mean, I guess, you're trust me, you're not the only one.
oh
So,
yeah, oh yeah. I'm always working on something.
mhm.
Whether it's doing my shows or doing my interviews or working on doing my own con, this, doing that. I've got to stay busy. I'm one of them guys that has to keep going 1,000 miles an hour
Yep,
because
feel you.
yeah, because if not, I do stupid shit and I don't need to do stupid shit anymore.
Yeah. Right, right. I mean, that's the reason why. you look down, and I just like to stay busy. I mean, people like to ask a lot, like, "Oh God, how, God damn, dude, how you do all this stuff?" And it's like, well, everything kind of has a season. It's not just me. I have a band and I have a crew and a group, but also like I'm like you. Like I have to stay busy, dude. Like the worst thing for me in my mind is to be left alone and bored. It just doesn't, it's not good for me. It's not healthy for me. Like the best thing I could be doing with my time is creating something, whether it's directing a film or writing a film script or writing music with my band or producing something at the park.
Hmm.
I set my life up to have all these channels and avenues that I can do to keep my mind active.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that when you start, you become stagnant. I think.
Mhm.
I'm even literally before this show started, I was working on one of my other shows. I edited one of my other shows, got that down uploading like right now. And then I dealt with some family stuff, and then I come down here to do this with you, and then I'll go back to working on another show when I get done on here, and then I'll chill out at the end of the night and I'll sit over here and read. It's just how I work.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Trust me.
The, so uh, when did you? We're gonna go back all the way back to this. When did you start getting into film?
Yeah, so with film, being a musician, it started off with people asking me to do like scores and things for the film, and just being a storyteller. I mean, I love to tell story. I played Dungeons and Dragons growing up. I was the dungeon master always. All my friends wanted me to be the dungeon master. That's like they knew like I like to tell stories. That's my thing. And so I was doing sound and audio and stuff for my friends' short films, and it just kind of like we were at my park one day, and this was probably 2019, 18 or something, 2018 or 19, and we were building this castle inside of one of my attractions. It's this really cool castle, and it looks great. And we were just looking around. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool, dude. Like, I almost just want to like film something in here, like a story. Just my natural storytelling just was like trying to emerge, push out, and then finally, I'm like, so my friend brought a camera, and we filmed Scara walking through the dungeon halls, and then we didn't really think much about it. We're like, cool, awesome. And then later, in like a day or two, my buddy was like, dude, you need to see these shots. They're super dope, man. They look super cool. Like, and we were just thinking maybe for a commercial for my park or something. But then when I went over there and I saw the shots, I'm like, holy shit, this is bigger than that. Like, this is something else. Like, and it just sort of sparked a cinematic thing in me where it was like, oh, and this is a whole other way of telling stories. This is not like writing music and lyrics, that's sort of what I've been doing, and it's like this is something different. And so we put together a short called The Witch's Bargain, and it won like over 50 international awards. It just did phenomenal. Yeah, that short just did phenomenal, and ever since then, dude, it was just like I've just had a bone, and I'm just naturally. What I realized is that having being the production management position of owning two theme parks, you just have to naturally be a production manager. I'm already directing is just naturally something that I was doing already for
Yeah,
years. I didn't really realize it. It's just, to me it was just running a damn my business,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it was directing. That's what I had done. And it was like, okay, well, on set, it wasn't that different. You're still dealing with makeup effects, wardrobe, all this stuff, and you're organizing it and you're getting it all together. So it turned out that I had a ton of experience already in directing. It was just a little bit different environment, but it was very translatable and portable over to the film world. And so it was like, oh, dope, dude, I could tell a story, direct it, write it sometimes, and then it just took off from there. So I'm was happy to have directed those two films, and then a bigger budget one next year, an elevated horror film about a quantum physicist who breaks through reality with his quantum computer and unleashes hell. So it's kind of a cross between Hellraiser and The Matrix.
So was it Hellworld from Hellraiser? What, six? No,
Right, right.
the that movie right there has a weird pedigree.
Mhm.
It was directed by the guy that would go on to direct Doctor Strange
Really?
and Henry Cavill, one of his earliest roles.
Ah, really?
Yep.
I'll be damned. I did not know that.
Yeah.
My favorite is Bloodlines of that hell. I could because it tells the story, and that's my thing. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
I love
Well.
the original because that's what sparks. That's the spark
Oh.
always. But when it comes to those types of franchises, my guilty pleasure is I always love the one that tells the actual story of the main character in a horror movie, which is always the creature, the antagonist in a creature feature anyway. But
Oh yeah. Well, the cool part about it is a couple years back, I got to do a con, and the guys I'm set up across from and that I hung out with the entire weekend were three of the people that worked on Hellraiser movies. So literally, I'm there with Gary Tunnicliffe, who was the special effects guy who worked on I think every one of them from three on to the end for Dimension Films. Mike Regan, who was a special effects guy, but he was also Chatterer in a bunch of the ones.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Paul Taylor, who was Pinhead in Hellraiser Judgment. And they were telling me all this behind the scenes stuff about working on the movies and
Yeah.
just like finding out that Hellraiser Bloodlines was like another hour longer originally. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's you start learning all these little secrets, and you're like, that's like I had to ask him because I was like, hey, because he worked on both. Gary worked on both Hellraiser and Halloween at one point,
Uh,
and I was like, so how close was we to getting the Pinhead and Michael Myers movie? And he goes, we weren't. That was never going to happen. He goes, they love talking about it. He goes, but um, the rights holders for the Assad family, and then the people who had Hellraiser
uh,
were never going to, do that together.
Give the fans what they want.
I wish we would have got the original ending for Freddy versus Jason that had Pinhead in it.
Oh yeah.
That would have been awesome. Then that would have worked its way into Freddy versus Jason versus Ash that we got in comic book form.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, great man. Hellraiser was always just I just fell in love with it because I mean the first one was very contained, the love story and but then it opens up to this really wild world and universe and
oh
this
yeah,
plane of existence and the maze and the engineer and like all these you're like what is all that about, and it does a brilliant job and I took these notes and I wrote this Demon Code script that I'm shooting next year based on the brilliant job that Clive Barker does by leaving you cliffhang. It's this cliffhanger at the end. And you're like, what is going on? Like, there's this whole world. Like, you're just curious. You want to know more about it. It's just fascinating. So,
what I always liked about Hellraiser, at least one and two, is that realistically, Pinhead and the Cenobites were not the bad guys.
mhm.
In the first one, it's Frank, and the second one, it's Julia.
Julia, yeah.
Yeah, and what's really funny is my wife was going back and rewatching what the Littlest Witch or the Worst Witch, and I'm
Uh,
sitting there watching it with her one day, and I'm like, why does the principal look so damn familiar? And then I
oh,
realize it's Julia from Hellraiser, and I'm
uh,
like, oh, and then I find out she hates horror movies and stuff like that. I'm like, now why? There's other you can do other jobs, right? You don't have to do.
yeah, that's always a disheartening. You
Yeah.
hear someone that you grew up watching, and you find out that they're not at all interested in the genre that you know come to know and love them for.
Oh yeah. Um, the one that I think was great was Joe Lynch talking to Don Coscarelli about Beastmaster because Joe Lynch loved Beastmaster, and then he talked to Don Coscarelli. Took Don Coscarelli, he's like, I hate that movie. He goes, it was taken away from me, and I didn't get to make the movie I wanted to make. And then Joe did Knights of Badassdom,
Uh,
which was the same way. And now they've both kind of veered towards like, people love these movies, and we did work on them.
yeah,
And so now they appreciate them, but there's still that whole point where you're just like, no. Mm.
Yeah, it's like it's not your vision, man. You
Yeah.
know, not your original vision, and then you get producers involved, and always a money game. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
the great thing about those two films, The Black Quarry and Damsel of the Doom, was that we're working on a micro budget, and so at a micro budget level, you don't have to deal with producers.
No.
That was just us, man. We wrote it. Nobody critiqued, nobody had to go through our script and tell us don't make this film or how to make it. Either both of those were just us, just like, oh, we're just gonna make some films, and if they come out cool, cool. If they don't, whatever. And now, I don't know that I'll ever had that luxury because we're moving on to more higher budget films, and like with that budget comes producers. And I'm not saying that that's always a bad thing. As a musician growing up as a kid, like in my 20s, and I wish I had external opinion from a producer, because you're an artist, and like I was a big Tool fan. It's like, oh, it's got to be about the art, and that's great, and that's what it is, and that's the driving factor. But in the end, it's if nobody's listening to it, you might as well. What are you doing? You know what I mean? Like you have to have a palette, something to be somewhat palatable to the general public. Will connect, and then once they connect, then you can really then you can connect even more. And so I don't dog on producers, very and but I will say, with more money comes more problems when it comes to too many opinions
Yeah.
in but
Well, because when you make your own movie, you write it the way you want it, and then you have to look at it and go, yeah, that's going to be too expensive. That's going to be too expensive. Cut that. That's your decision. When you start getting into producers go, no, that's not going to make it. That's not going to make it. Cut those out. And you're like, I can make that work. And you tell me now I got to cut it out because you don't think it. Yeah, stuff like that. You got to get, when it's your decision that you can cut it, you feel better about it. When it's somebody else's decision, you got to cut something. You're like,
yeah, and everybody's got opinions.
oh, yeah.
If you could give the same thing to 10 people, and they're all going to have different
Oh,
opinions.
yeah.
So cutting through the subjectivity and starting to realize objectively what needs to be fixed on something is not always easy. You know, like just figuring out, finding out like, okay, well, what's your opinion and what's a real problem with this script or film, or song,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's I have to ask this one because this is something that I've personally ran into when I'm writing and stuff like this, and I see that's a problem with some other people. And then I've been watching a lot of TV and movies lately, and I'm like, people don't know how to end things.
uh,
They don't know how to give a thing an ending, and they'll just keep either a it'll just end, or they just keep tacking endings on. You're like, dude, this could have ended 15 minutes ago, and now you've got five more endings. This isn't Lord of the Rings. You don't need that many more
yeah,
endings.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. The bookends are the hardest part for sure. The first 5 or 10 minutes, and then the ending, the hardest parts in the movie. Absolutely. I mean, I like to come out banging always. That's a formula. I think that works. I enjoy it. That was one of the things that I talked to Sarah about whenever she started writing Damsel of the Doom. I'm like, look, I don't like, let's come write your story, dude, but it needs to come in with a bang. I
yeah,
really, I've always wanted to film a witch trial. So, there's some things that, like some bucket list director things,
yeah,
like, I've always wanted to like do a witch trial. We can do a modern one, kind of like Coven, or something, the series, but yeah, this enter it's right. That was my only sort of, I wouldn't say requirement, but request. Is like, let's come in swinging, and that's kind of the way. The Black Quarry's like that with the band. Demon Code is intense, like the film, my new film. It doesn't let up until 15, 20 minutes or so, and so it's, yeah. I just like to come out swinging, and then I'm with you. I don't like open endings. I if it's a natural, there's a nostalgia to leaving something open, like a laughter or something at the
yeah.
end. to build a franchise off of.
Yeah.
That's a nostalgic effect, and it's cheesy, but I'm also like, oh, okay, cool. They're gonna make a second one. That's cheesy, but they're kind of letting us know. Um, but I like some closure personally. I like closure, and I think Lost really gave me a lot of trauma. This, and
I
now I hear they're gonna do a prequel to Lost, and
uh,
I
I
want Lost ruined me with now I need closure on everything.
my wife had me watching Lost, and about I couldn't even tell you when I gave up on that show. Because I'm sitting there at one point, I looked at her and I was like, they're all dead, and I got up and walked away. And this is like season three, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know how this is going to end. And then I'm not gonna lie, I just watched. I've been watching Yellow Jackets with my wife
Mm.
on, and I'm not going to give nothing away, but yeah, the last episode dropped Friday, so that's where we're sitting with that one.
Not
My,
happy with it.
my wife is okay with it. Yeah, I'm not happy with the ending at
Do
all.
you like closure, or do you like it left up to your sort of imagination? Or
um. Okay. The thing,
uh-huh,
the ending of the thing. I like.
uh-huh,
It's open ended. Same with Prince. I mean, if you want to look at that, John Carpenter was great at that, leaving it open ended.
yeah.
Um.
Well, it's like masterful if you can do both. Masterful, right? If you can
Yeah.
weave in closure, like character closure, but the
Yeah.
story is open
Yeah.
ended. That's masterful screenwriting.
I
Yeah.
I would like some loose ends tied up. You don't have to tie them all up, but some would be nice. The one that we make fun of now is M Night Shyamalan, the Trapped, and then his daughter's movie that he did, The Watcher,
Yeah.
and it's like they didn't know how to end the movie, so they just kept putting another ending, and then another ending, and I'm just like, is this movie over? Is it done yet? Because this movie could have ended 15 minutes ago, and it would have been a good ending 15 minutes ago, and now it's a oh damn, sorry. Uh, but you're just like
Yeah. That
something. Either end it or
Yeah, that's where a producer becomes useful, right? Because they have that sort of outside perspective. It's like I feel like that a producer, like, well, I'm watching The Studio now with, I don't know if you've seen that. It's a new series that just came out about Hollywood, like, but it's about this producer, and his battles and the things that producers have to fight with about being let an artist be an artist, but also they have to connect, they have to make money off of it. You
yeah,
can't, and so it really, I blame the producer with things like that. Like they need to step up and say, dude, one ending is enough. Figure it out, and let's yeah.
yeah. See, it's so funny because you talked about movies having to make money, and then I'm looking at some of these directors that are these huge directors that none of their movies have ever made money, and I'm like, Lars von Trier or Paul Anderson.
Mhm.
I don't think any of them guys have ever made money on their movies. They're just Oscar bait or award bait, and I'm like, that cannot be a viable option for a movie. I thought all movies needed to make money, but then I found out there's movies that they make because they know they're never going to make money on it. They make them just to try to get an award, or they can write them off. But I'm like, doesn't
Yeah,
anybody ever step up and go, "Do we really need another one?"
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and that's the job of indie film. Indie
yeah,
film is where indie innovation,
yeah,
you're not, that's where your new art is going to come from. Your fresh perspectives, people that are not really dictated by Wall Street on what to make or, to regurgitate this or that. And I love the indie world. I mean, that's the world that I've only dwelt. Now, to be fair, no one's ever came to me, my bands or my films, and gave me the option of not being in the indie world,
Yeah,
right? And so, and I grew up at a time where people were chastising bands for selling out and stuff, and being a musician, it's like, well, I don't know if they're selling out. I mean, there's trying to do what they love for a career. So I just don't think it's that straightforward. I never have thought that, but yeah, to some degree, there's a point where you do. I do believe that, but being indie is tough, man. You're working, you have another job. You're trying to make films. You're trying to tour as a band, and then go to work on Monday and work, however many hours a week. And and people and sort of as an artist, you're getting older and you're doing things. You're having a family, and then something's got to give. And so, I'm lucky. I don't have kids, and so I can do these things, right? So this is a luxury that I've sort of set up. My wife and I, like, we've set up this life where we can go do things, and I can be engaged in film and these things. But yeah, I mean, that's not everybody,
no.
and so indie film has been good for me because I can engage at that level. But man, it would be hard for someone trying to build a career and a family off of it.
Yeah, I've known people who've been able to walk away from a regular job and just do indie films, and I look at them and I'm like, well,
Mhm.
most of them don't have kids, most of them aren't married, and the ones that are do have kids aren't married, or they do other side work, editing for other people or doing this for other people, so they're staying in film, maybe not working for themselves, but they're doing other work to basically be able to work. And it's definitely hard because I mean I've had at least 5 projects in really like late stage production. I mean, I had a movie cast, I had a budget. We were ready to go. Then we lost a location. Then we lost a couple actors. Then the actors that we still had was like trying to wrangle cats. And it just got to be so hard. And I'm like, and then they're like, well, I can film this weekend. You're the only one. I
Yeah,
don't know what we're going to do with just you.
yeah,
Because I do need other people. And, I was like, I can film this weekend and I can get, and then everybody's, well, that weekend doesn't work for me. And then I'm like, well, this is the only weekend I can do this. If you either you're in or you're not. And then, I lost like 5 people because nobody could shoot that weekend. And I'm like, I have a business. I have, a family. I was like, if I can shoot, I need to do it on these weekends. And it got to the point now where I'm just like, I can still do it. I still have the budget. I have somebody who will do work with me and some stuff like that. So it's not a problem, but it's just timing and being able to like I said, wrangle cats. Because I've talked to several people now that they have a group of people that they work with, and then they don't have to do that. Me, I'm in the early stages, so I have like one person that I can count on, and the rest of them I can. They're good people, but they have their own lives, and trying to wrangle them in is another hard part. So yeah, but
yeah, and even people just even a crew, like especially with something like film that is a lot of work. It's not like writing a song, getting together with the band, going to play out of town or whatever. Like with a film, it is literally like it's like 12, 13 hour days with your own set and you're just driving. And so
yeah,
it's not for everyone. And
oh
so
yeah,
even if like, our crew, like what started off a crew that was like explorative, like let's explore this canvas a little bit and see what it's like to do art in this way. And it just turned out everybody kind of found a groove and they're like, well, I don't want to be on set 12 hours, but I do like doing production. You know what I mean? Or I do like doing this and I really want to do this, engage with film. But it's definitely the masochistic person that will go out there
Yeah.
and just slaughter themselves day after day to you know but yeah so yeah and then people have families and they like my director of photography had a kid and it was just like so his time became luckily well not luckily but it happened after the film and so it's like so could he do it again probably not within now that he has a
No, he's
young.
got a child. Yeah, no.
That's how it is with indie film, man. You have what you have, and then you appreciate the crew that you have. You try to work with them, and yeah, nobody's getting paid, right? Well, they're maybe if they're getting paid, they're not getting paid enough to quit their jobs
Yeah.
and all the time in the world to do this with you. Let's do it, right?
Yep.
No, you're trying to coordinate a billion schedules of people that are weekend warriors who have families and lives and jobs, and that's the job of a micro budget
Yep.
film director, and it's really hard. It makes it really hard. Yeah.
I have a guy who wants me to be in his movie this summer. He asked me how much I get paid, and I'm like, I don't know. I got to justify leaving my store to go film on a Saturday. That's my busy day. It's a lot of money that I'm losing out on. Do I expect you to pay what I would make on a Saturday? No, I don't. But I also got to justify being able to walk away from my busiest day of the work week to go make a couple $100s. And I told him, I was like, well, I can do Sundays. Sunday's
Yeah.
my day off. I was like, I can work on this during this project and stuff like that. And I have another friend who lives like 5 hours away, and he's like, I want you to be in the movie. And I'm like, okay, but I'm basically gonna be able to come in for like a weekend. I hope you can use me for the weekend, film everything I can, and then I'll have to head back up to Ohio. And I got and it's the hard part. I get that you can't make a movie around me because I'm not important. Um, but if you want me in the movie, you got to work around me. Unfortunately, and I'm sorry about that, but
That's definitely like to me like the point where like the most difficult part about making these sort of smaller, we're really small micro budget films
yeah.
is like that is the thing where I was like, okay, I did that. I've done that for a couple films. That is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's now that was one of the requirements for my new film. Like I need people that I need to have enough money to where I can pay professionals to do this day to day and I don't have to juggle calendars and schedules of people that are just trying that just and not have money to be able to pay people like what you're saying like yeah they can go work another job and make do what they normally do and make more money so that
Yeah.
was a bifurcating point for me as a director like after Damsel was like I'm not doing that again that is so hard and it's one thing when you go do it with your friends and we did that and then it was slowly becoming like as it was becoming more and more obvious that film was going to be something that's a real option in my life as an artist and that I have a filmmaker, I am definitely I have that sort of ability. Then it was like we were wanting more, and it wasn't just me; it was a team. We were wanting more and more quality, and just like we were just pushing it, and to
Yeah.
the like, well, it was just obvious that our horror web crew was like, damn, we just keep pushing it more and more, and we're exhausting ourselves, and then we're going to work on Monday, and so that was the point where we finished Damsel. Super proud of it. It's a beautiful film, but it was like, okay, I can't do that anymore. Like
Yeah.
from now on, it's got to be like full time paid. Everybody is going to be paid, and that's the way. If I don't have the proper funding, it can be a small budget, it can be an indie film, but if I don't have that, I don't have the energy to do that anymore. So
Yeah. It's I've kicked around the idea of I have you know people love coming in the shop. They have the discussions and stuff like that, and it's kind of goofy. And everybody's like, "Oh man, you should film what you guys do here." I was like, "Yeah." So we basically remake Clerks, but in a comic book store instead of. Um,
really, It's great. And Clerks is what, 30 years old now or something?
Yeah, yeah, at least yeah, definitely 30 years old. Um, and we like we had I don't know, a couple months back, we're sitting there, me and my buddy Big Tim, we're having this discussion about literally like space time and time dilation and black holes and all this stuff like this. And this lady walks in and she's listening to us while she's shopping. And she goes, "This isn't at all what I thought I would walk into at a comic book store." And I'm like, "Well, you walked into this one, so it definitely is."
I mean, come on, that's exactly the kind of stuff
Yeah,
you
you
expect
know,
in a comic book store, to be honest with
yeah,
you.
yeah. We're not the guys that this literally has happened. I was at a convention, and there was a fist fight between who was stronger, the Thing or the Hulk, and a fist fight broke out over this.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm just watching this happen, and I'm like,
On the fist fight, the Thing or the Hulk?
um, I would say Hulk because Hulk just continues to get stronger, but the Thing
The
is smarter.
representing the Thing or the person that was representing. I would agree with you. I think, there's no, apparently the Hulk is unlimited to his anger. But I mean, I was wondering on their avatars, on their human avatars, like which one of them actually won.
I would say Ben because he's a pilot. He's in the Air Force. He's military. Yeah, I have to say Ben Grimm. Um, but we don't have we had those conversations at the shop,
Yeah.
kind of. But we have the conversations like, okay, would Ghost Rider's penance stare do anything to Spawn, or stuff like that, and then we do stuff that just irritates the hell out of people. Like I'm like sitting there going, uh, Daredevil would take Nightwing in a fight, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's Robin." I was like, realistically, man, he wouldn't have any. He couldn't do anything against Nightwing or Daredevil, and people get upset, and um, I've actually posted stuff, and it's like irritated the hell out of people, and I was like, I didn't know this was going to make people mad. Jesus Christ, come on.
I'm like a very nostalgic. I just love comic book stores because when I grew up, it was like taking me to a toy store, going to a comic book store. I mean, I loved back then. There were all the pewters. That was a whole thing, and the fantasy pewter, those sort of figures,
Oh yeah.
and like just like I just remember going and just being like everything around me was just like this whole world of creativity and like all the comics and every one of them was a different story and they had visual. It wasn't like a book or something, like they had visual components to it, and the whole world inside of a comic book universe was not real and fictional and
Mhm.
fun. And I just have always just had such a nostalgic love for comic book stores, man.
Oh yeah. Believe me, I started working at my first comic book store when I was 15, and I'll be 51 in June,
Yeah,
and I have been doing this my entire life. And everybody's like, "How long have you been a comic?" I was like, "I don't remember not." My grandparents gave me Star Wars comics when I was 3.
yeah.
I don't even know if I was 3 yet, you
Wow.
know. And it's been because they took me to see Star Wars, and that's when I started falling in love with Star Wars. I've never, you know, I've never imagined my life too different than what I'm currently at now, except for I didn't imagine I'd have 4 kids. Um, to be honest, I thought I'd live in a trailer by myself, and no woman would want me. And then I've been with the same woman for 30 plus years, and she's dealt with me for all my bullshit. And 4 kids later, and I have
Yeah, yeah.
awesome children that are into some of the same stuff I'm into, and that helps a lot. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really cool when you got your kid. Like my son Joe, who's almost always with me, is my next to youngest, which I say that a lot, but he's 25, and he loves horror now. He loves comic books. He loves, we'll sit there and nitpick at music, and he's one of them kids that was like, I say kid, he's an adult now, but if he found a band and he would like, okay, I like this band. Okay, who are their inspirations? and then he'd go find their inspirations, and then he'd start listening to that, and he would just kind of like he always had to study, and that's the way he is to this day. And he sits around the shop, and we talk comics, and he talks gaming and stuff like that with all the people that come in, and he's my right hand man, and he'll be the one who takes over when I die, and that's
Yeah,
my
yeah, that's right.
yeah. But it's being in this like industry that we're in, art, as much as we are different, music and movies and comic books and stuff like that, it's all art when it comes down to it. Um, you know, Everything's subjective, and you will have people who love it and you'll have people who hate it. And a lot of people can't get past that. If one person hates their work, it kills them. And I think that some people need to get away from, because everything is subjective, and I'm going to say this I don't mean to say this in a bad way, but people get butthurt about, they're like, this guy wrote a bad review about my movie, and I'm like, so who the fuck are they?
Yeah, I mean, being a musician will definitely, my very common example is if you take your favorite band, the band that you just absolutely love, and you give it to 10 people, and they're already huge, right? The band that you love
Yeah.
is like, it's a huge band. They're rich, whatever. They have been a success, and you give it to 10 people, five or six of them are going to hate it.
Yep.
Half of them probably are going to hate it. They're going to be like, nope, not for me. Get this out of here. Well, they're going to be like, and two or three of them are going to absolutely hate it. The
Mm-hmm.
other two or three are going to be like, not for me. And then another four or so are going to be like, or another couple are going to be like, oh, okay. And then you might get one of them that's like, oh my God, this is the best shit. But then when you start to look at those statistics, you're like, that's like 10% or less of people in the world and the general palette, general statistic that are actually going to love that band, and they're a huge success. They're a
Mm-hmm.
huge success. So yeah, I mean, like those things are very personal, but it doesn't. But you're not trying to get the acceptance of the world. You're
No.
just connecting to people that get it, that really that are there to connect. Everybody's got their little antennas, and you're connecting to people that are on your frequency, man, and that's really what you're doing. And as a songwriter for years, like I would subject myself to those like Reverb Nation reviews and stuff where random people get on and they listen to your song, and it's like, yeah, man, you have to callous up and like understand that it's so personal. Things are very personal. You got to learn to dissociate personally and understand that not everybody is going to dig what you're doing, no matter what. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, a few years ago, I've had people like, oh, you're a big music guy. You should do music reviews. I'm like, I don't want to. I was like, one, if I bought the music, I like it. That if I'm doing a review of something, it's something I personally own, then I like it. And if I don't like it, I don't want to buy it, so I don't want to talk about it. So I'm not one of them guys, I'm not a fan of pop music, whatever. I'm not a fan of current rap or anything like that. I know there's people that love it. That's
Yeah.
their opinion. My favorite bands are Anthrax, Clutch, and I'm big into synthwave right now, and some other stuff. And
Midnight, like
yeah,
that. Right. Yeah. Clutch. I'm a huge fan of Clutch too,
oh
by the way. So, yeah.
yeah, going to see them in June again. I go see them usually twice a year for the last, I couldn't tell you how many years now.
My favorite shows ever, live shows that I ever was at, was a Clutch show. And it was just wild, dude. I was front row, and it was just like smaller club Austin. They were on their they had just what album was it? It was the one with Regulator. Uh
Oh my God, like,
anyway, it was after like Elephant Riders and the self-titled,
yeah,
so they were starting to get jammy. Like they
yeah,
like songwriting to like they were becoming more of a jammy band, and they had a harp and stuff. But dude, they would slip back into those songs, the older songs off Elephant Riders, and I've only ever seen it with raid shows on, when the whole crowd was bouncing, and it was that, man. And then there was other things going on that were just amazing. It was just
Oh
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's every and the nice part about Clutch is every show is different. Every
Mhm.
show you can see them on a Monday and then see them again on like Wednesday, and it's two different sets. They almost never play the same set. Even though I saw them, yeah, last tour they did Blast Tyrant in its entirety, and then when that was done, they did five more songs, but those five different songs were never the same from night to night. So
Yeah.
yes, they did Blast Tyrant, and then the last five songs of the night were off Elephant Riders or Transnational Speedway or Book of Bad Decisions. They would do all that, and I I will go see them every time. There's bands that I love, and you see them once and you see the same show. It doesn't matter what you can see them 3 years later, and it's the exact same show, maybe a different song or two, but Clutch it's always different. So
Yeah. 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 Yeah, great, man. They were so just a huge part of me growing up and inspiration as a musician and songwriting, Clutch was.
yeah, they're definitely songsmiths, man. They and none of their songs sound alike. None of them.
What I liked is the guy tells stories, Neil or whatever. He like
Yeah.
soap makers and shit. It's like there's these historic components and there's
Yep.
these stories, and he's telling a story in his music, and you get tired of hearing a love song over and over, or
Yeah.
some rock star drooling, crying about some girl, and vice versa. It's like you get tired of hearing that shit. And here
Yep.
this guy is singing about witches and like curandera and shit. It's like, dude, now this is cool, man. This
Oh
guy's
yeah.
telling a story in his
Shit.
song.
Hot Bottom Feeder is them talking about making fucking crab cakes.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
funny.
look it up. There's literally it goes, get a pan, get it up hot, and it tells you it's like it put it in a cake. Yeah, it's tells you how to make crab cakes, and it's a song called Hot Bottom Feeder. And oh my Ghoul Wrangler, I love Ghoul Wrangler. Um, but yeah, it's music's awesome, man. I mean, I've and we're about the same age, and I love listening to the stuff when they go when you hit about 14, 15, your musical tastes are locked in. And I went, sorry. I was like, okay, I still do like a lot of those bands. I still like my thrash bands that I grew up on, my, Iron Maiden, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then as I've gotten older, okay, I found this new band. Okay, I found this new band. And now I'm like, okay, I like that one. I like that one. And then I'm like, oh, I like this band. This is new. Shit, that band's 20 fucking years old. Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe that for a second. I think that, I mean, like, I get bored, with a style and genre. I'll just get bored and, like, God, and then I'll just, like, the synthwave stuff you're talking about, like, that is a whole thing. And it's like, it has a nostalgic kind of vibe to someone like me and you, I'm sure.
Yep.
And it's like, it's just, what am I doing? Am I working? Is it a nice background vibe with a groove, and it's warm, the synthy warm, or am I like fucking in my car, or am I mowing the grass and I want to, disturbed out or something? You know what I mean? Like, it really just depends. And there are genres that are introduced all the time,
Yep.
and open-minded to them. Like, if you're an open-minded person, I don't think your musical style is ever fixed, really. I think it's
No.
evolving because
It's
we're
a
evolving. So,
Oh yeah, we as people, man, we need to evolve, or we get stagnant,
right.
and that's when you get people that make dumb decisions and stuff because you're trapped in that mindset. You need to get away from that. You need to evolve and become something bigger than you are. As I freaking ramble on. So I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I do have to ask the big question: who's the goblin behind you?
Oh, oh, that's Savage Sydney.
That is
So
awesome.
you can see him too well. He's got a so basically, like, I'm a creature guy. Like, I love creatures. Being a haunted house owner,
Yeah.
my house is full of creatures, and they have a romance period at my house. So I'll get a new creature. He gets to go down in the living room, and my wife is like, "Okay, you get a couple weeks with your new creature, And so while we're watching TV, I get to look over at my new creature and be like, oh, look at my new creature, it's so cool. And then after a couple weeks, I'm like, they have to come back up to my man cave or my office or studio, or whatever you want to call it. And then and so he was recently banished now from the and so he's the latest in a list of banished creatures in my house, And I like to play the game. We're like, oh, I'm buying it for my theme park, and then so it's just sitting around in my house forever. Like she drew the line with an Edgar Allan Poe that I had that I bought recently, and it just looks too real. It's a very real Edgar Allan Poe, and she was like, no, bro, not even in your man cave is this thing okay. This thing looks way too real. And so he is out in the garage, and even in the garage, he's faced away from like the washing machine and dryer.
So yeah, he's post him into what? See, I have an animatronic werewolf that was
Cool.
here at the house, and it was set upstairs in the front room, looking out the window. And it was one of the ones that when people would walk by, it would turn on, the eyes would light up, and it'd start moving. So we had that for Halloween, and then there were because my mother in law lives with us, and everybody's like, yeah, that needs to go now. And it was going to get moved down because this is my area, this is my man cave, my basement, and I was going to put it like right here next to me, and then I'm like, I don't have room there, and so now it's at the shop in the back room. So now every little kid that has to go to the restroom has to walk by the werewolf, and they're like, oh, by the werewolf, daddy. And I go, don't make me plug it in because then you'll go back into the like eyes will light up and it's like, ah.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like you got a whole theme park of these things. It's like I know, but it's not my house. Like it's not my house. Like I like creatures and I like stuff like little goblins and like the Immortals song, like Wildor is about a goblin magician, and those were early in the days. I wrote some of the original Immortals lyrics were stuff that I had written, and they're all about creatures. And then as Sarah got more comfortable with the band, she started taking over, and she's an excellent songwriter, so
Yeah,
she started taking over that. And you can sort of definitely tell there's like this sort of path where it's like all our songs are about little creatures, and then all of a sudden it's like we have a song about being a vampire, or a our
spooky
latest
shit.
song
Yeah,
just about a love for horror and
yep.
Halloween and stuff,
Okay.
and so
That was
and
the
so
outro in the last episode, by the way. So I put that
right,
in.
right.
Yep.
It's definitely there's this creaturey. We have a song called Mummy Bat that I wrote, about this bat that was owned by this ancient sort of, Egyptian king, and it was his favorite bat. He died, and he wrapped him up, and he became a mummy bat. And it's like anyway, so there's all these like early immortal stuff is really creaturey because that's the kind of my films are creature features, the Black Quarry. You could tell I didn't write Damsel because there's not one creature in Damsel of the Doomed, right?
Yeah.
And so that's definitely not written by me. Sarah wrote it as we talked. But like Demon Code, my new film is definitely a Hellraiser inspired creature feature type of film. And so I just love creatures, man. I love monsters. I have a hat that proves it. It says I love monsters on it.
Well, why it reminded me is you ever heard of the band Necrogoblicon? Yeah.
They're coming
That
off
that
pretty soon, actually, I think.
yeah. That just reminds me of John Goblicon. So
That's what he looks
I've actually hung out with John at a show one time, and he's just so fast. The dude's like, so there's a picture of him holding my beard like this. I'm like, all right, man, cool.
it looks like this guy's about to kill me. He's like he's about
Yeah,
to. He's turdy. He's got a turdy but menacing look on his face. That's
and it's so funny because the way you're framed in there, it's like he's standing behind you like soon. Yeah,
right. Yeah, Savage Sydney, man. Savage
and
Sydney.
Sydney,
Not gonna
that'd be
have
awesome.
banished from the living room. So
See, I've had a couple things. Well, literally everything is in my basement's banished from the rest of the house. I'm not supposed to have. I have Billy Butthead. I actually have a ram's head on my wall, and my wife's like, I don't like that. So it's where she never goes. And I have a bear head that a friend gave me, and he's in the garage. and that's Teddy Roosevelt. So so anytime you go out in the garage, I gotta go over and I pet Teddy Roosevelt every time I walk in and out of the garage. And wife's like, I was like, I'm gonna bring him in. What? No, you're not. I don't want that in the house. I don't want a dead animal in the house.
Creature to your right over here. I see his fangs or whatever coming out.
That is, oh, that's my uh. Hold on a second. That is uh this thing.
Ah, that's sweet, dude.
Yeah, it's a buddy of mine gave this to me. It's like you can do like the Viking type thing, or you can wear it like this and you can see out through the eyes.
Oh, you can see through the eyes.
But it is extremely hot and uncomfortable,
Uh-huh.
and my cats love knocking it off.
Yeah, I have a big werewolf that was crafted by a artist, and it's incredible and it's huge and it's this really intricate werewolf. I don't even, it's not even really a mask. It's more of like it sits on your shoulders and but it's like nothing that you could actually ever wear in the Texas heat, and it's
Oh
such
no, good God, no.
a display. Yeah.
I got a job offer in Dallas years ago, and my dad goes, you know, in the summer it gets like well over 100 some degrees, and the rest of the year it's just hot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
went,
Because where are you at?
I'm in Ohio.
All right.
So
Yeah.
I'm in one of the really schizophrenic weather states. It was literally like 70 degrees. That's why I'm sick. It was 70 degrees, almost 80, and then it dropped down to snow the next day.
Crazy.
So I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
tired.
it's awesome too. It wasn't snow, but it was like 45 or something. And now it's quickly it was probably 90 degrees today, you know. So
It
yeah.
got up in like the 70s, but I've been like in the basement all day and did not want to go outside because I felt like crap. And this is my gym day too, and I still was like, no. I called up my son and my buddy who go to the gym with me, and I'm like, I'm not going. I feel like crap. I'm staying home. So
You got to do this, so that's great.
yep,
You were still productive, right?
yeah, yeah. That's all I've been doing since I woke up way later than I normally do, and I've been working on my other shows. And literally, this Saturday is my fourth anniversary of my Saturday morning cartoon show. So I'm doing like a big special show. I call it every year we do a Saturday all day. So it's like, you know, when you get up in the morning, you'd start watching cartoons, and then at a certain time, then you'd go to like wrestling, and then you go to like kung fu movies, and that's what I do. So it's going to be like a 12-hour block is what it almost always is. And I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Then I go, oh yeah, I love doing this.
Well, yeah, I mean, like one thing that's very clear is you like to stay busy.
Oh,
I mean,
got to.
as a business owner, especially, I know how that is. So
Yep.
that already is all encompassing.
Yep. So, all right. Well, before it gets too late, I don't want to keep you too long here. So I got to ask you the questions here at the end. Which, since you're a touring band, I get to ask you. You've been in a touring band. Tour horror stories. I love hearing those.
Oh, wow. Horror stories. Yeah. I don't think I have anything that is just well, I mean we've had I've had some funny slash things where we would accidentally lock our one of our musicians in our trailer, you know, that kind of stuff happens, but I'm trying to think of like a true horror story, and I don't know that I've had one. Now I've had a miserable trip. We were going to Lubbock, Texas, which is around 5 or 6 hours from Austin, and we were going with another band, and they had this idea. Well, they had this really nice travel trailer, and we were going to do this whole Texas kind of vibe thing, tour thing, and we were like, "Oh, cool, dope! You got this travel trailer. This is going to be," and it just turned out that the venue that we were booked at was horrible. Everything was horrible. The trailer had a flat. It was not well kept. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not a very I wouldn't say it's a very exciting horror story, but for me, it the whole trip, like just we decided to turn around and just come back home after the first gig, and it took three or four times as long because the tires were messed up, and it was just an absolute nightmare. So I think that's horrific for me.
For you, yeah. See, there's ones because we did another show and we've had the what was it, the bass player tried to kill the lead singer on stage. We tried to stab him. One guy got like violently sick and had to shit in a bucket like while playing. So
Wow.
one band they come out and like all their shit was stolen. Like they gutted their van.
Then
So
I have to say, man, I guess I've been pretty lucky because I've been doing it my whole life, and nobody's had to shit in a bucket, and we haven't got anything stolen.
oh, you're like you're in a lot of people so far. So
I guess so. I guess so. Right.
yeah. Um, and now the important questions. Uh,
Uh,
where can people find your stuff, your projects?
yeah. So cool. So, if you love horror comedy and you like black metal, but musical horror comedy, it's not a musical; it's an actual film. But then I would definitely say go check out the Black Quarry. It's short; it's like 55 minutes. It's a creep show kind of vibe where a horror host, Scara, who you had on your show at
Yep.
one point, she introduces the story about the black metal band. It's fun, man. It's like 55 minutes. And it's just kind of a lighthearted film where you get to, if you had a long day, you can just tune in and check it out. It's on Amazon, YouTube, iTunes, and I think something else. But you, for all of these films, you can go to horrorweb.com, HORROR web.com, one word. And that will show you what's going on, where you can find these films, etc. Damsel of the Doom, which is the second film, is in film festivals. So unfortunately, right now it's not out, but it will be. But towards the latter part of the year. So again, you can go onto Facebook or Instagram, just type in Horror Web or even our website. You can join our email listing. You could join, follow us on Facebook or Instagram. If you like, send a message. If anybody, we encourage it. It's probably myself or Scara that's going to answer. You get us, like, so it's really cool, and we love to talk to people. And if you do go follow us, you'll hear about when Damsel comes out. Now, for my new film, Demon Code. That film right now, we have a crowdsourcing campaign just to get the ball rolling on some creature design. So you can go and you can get your name in the credits. You can be a supporter of the film, a lot of other type of things. You can get exclusive T-shirts and stuff. And so you can just go to it. You can go to our horror web, find those links, or you can just go to demoncodefilm.com. And then I think the band, I'll just mention the band, The Immortals with a Z. You can go to theimmortalsband.com. Just type in our name, you'll find us. We're on social media, all the social media platforms, iTunes, Spotify, all our videos. We've had the incredible luck of having a friend of mine who directs music videos, and he does all our music videos, and so he does a killer job at that. So we're a theatrical band, so it's a lot of fun. Our music videos are fun, definitely reflects the nature of our band. And so we're like a visual thing. So go check out our videos, go download, add us to your playlist and stuff, and it really supports us. Both the band and film is really cool because it's the early phases of something I feel like that's going to do really well. So you can kind of get on board early on,
Yeah,
and sort of be that hipster that says, I knew them.
I liked it before they were anybody. Yes.
Yeah. And so, we work really hard and I think that, you know, if you have the effort, you put in the effort and you keep driving forward, you're good things happen. I do believe that. And so we'd love to hear from you guys. So reach out, go join our social media platforms and say hi.
Cool. You got any merch?
Actually, let's see. Yeah, we do. You can go to horrorweb.com. We have a store.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, we have a store. And in that store are artwork for the films and the band. You can find Immortals t-shirts and stuff on there. And then for for the theme parks, you can find it's like a one stop shop for everything
One
that we.
stop shop.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah,
So
that works.
posters and stuff on there. I do have Blu-rays for the Black Quarry, so if there's some physical media there. We have been exclusively selling those at like trade shows and stuff that we go to, conventions,
Yeah.
and but I will say I always say the same thing. If you're interested, shoot a message over to one of our social platforms. Say, hey, I want a Blu-ray, Corey, and then I'll get with you and we'll figure it out and I'll mail you one because I've already mailed out a ton of them and I don't mind doing that. So
Are they signed?
they will, yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
Most people want them signed, so like Scare and I will sign them before we send them off. So
Yep. That's why I asked, because man, people want signed stuff, man. So, all right. Well, this has been fun. Man, you're definitely a dude I could talk to because we're roughly the same age. We got a lot of the same thing. I could talk to you forever. And I have to make myself stop because if not, I would just keep talking and rambling on forever.
yeah,
So, um,
right.
but you're doing some good work out there. I'm not gonna lie because we talked to Scara about the hallway, the what skeletal hallway that's in your music video, and I go, she just told me about it, and I watched the video. I'm like, God damn, that is really cool. I like that.
Yeah, that was like that's just the type of work at the at Bat City Scaregrounds, which is my theme park here in Austin, and that was made by Kayla Stojic, who is the zombie peep show woman. You know, that's her business, and she was also the AD on the film, and she also made the creature in the Black Quarry. She made that whole creature costume. She's making one of my creatures in my new film, and so just incredible artist and an excellent addition to our team. So.
Right. Any last words before we head out?
No, I have to say just thank you for having me, and I really enjoyed it, and I agree, man. Like like it's too bad we don't live anywhere near each other because
Yeah.
I casual conversation, and we have a lot of things that we enjoy the same, like comics and stuff
Oh
there.
yeah. Yeah, we can do this again. We can do a whole nother show and just talk about random shit for an hour and a half. So
The good thing, normally, when it comes to these films, like Scare and I will do it together with someone, and I'm
yeah,
like, the good thing we didn't do this one because we would have just bored the hell out of Scare.
she'd just be like, it's no different than when my wife goes and hangs out with me and my friends. Just like,
Oh God,
but the other way around. If I go hang out with her friends, I'm just like,
yeah, yeah. Oh
yeah,
God, they're talking about comics again. Yeah.
yeah,
All right. Thank you for having me.
no problem.